What's up, my guys, and welcome back to the Wrestler Report Card. I'm your host, Cody, and today we're going to be discussing what went down on the September 28th edition of AEW Dynamite. Again, how this show works is I take a wrestling show, I break down each match, give it a letter grade, and at the end, I tally them some bitches up, and then I give that show its own report card. So as y'all know, Uncle Tony got his back against the ropes because there's no CM Punk, no Kenny Omega, and no Young Bucks. Plus, you got Triple H applying pressure over there in WWE. So how does Tony Khan respond? Well, first off, he sprinkles MJF all throughout the episode, which is a great idea. Not only that, but you got both the AEW and Ring of Honor champions in their own matches as Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley are both in action. And you got the big return last week of Saraya, formerly known as Paige, coming, claiming she's bringing the women's revolution over to AEW like she did in WWE back in the day. So as y'all can tell, we got quite a bit to talk about. So without further ado, buckle up your seatbelts and let's get to great. We open up the night with the Jericho Appreciation Society, who came out looking like a Prince tribute band with those purple tuxes on. I tell you what, from that to the entire crowd chanting, "We want pizza" at one point, it was a wild segment, but we finally got down to business as Danny Garcia rejects a gift from Jericho, which led to Jericho asking him the question of the hour. Are you a sports entertainer or are you a wrestler? But before he could answer, out came Bryan Danielson. He and Jericho got into it, leading to Jericho saying that Garcia belongs to him and does whatever Jericho says. Garcia interrupts that, gets up in his face, and tells Jericho off, and then issues a tag team challenge between himself and Danielson to take on Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, aka La Sex Gods. But before we get to that, we first find out that Danielson will be taking on Daddy Magic, Matt Menard, in singles action tonight, right now. We come back from the commercial break, and Angelo Partner is just getting involved left and right, helping his partner Daddy Magic out. Well, that was until Claudio came out, drug Parker all the way to the back with him to even out the odds. Danielson gets up, hits his running knee, followed by the label lock, and Menard had no choice but to tap out. For our opening act, I'm going to give it a B-. I thought it was fun and entertaining. My only knock is that this took up the first 30 minutes of Dynamite. Like, we could have gave that time to somebody else. However, I can't dwell on that too long because next up, you got the man of the hour. It's MJF scheduled to address the crowd. But before we can get to our scheduled TV programming, out comes Wheeler Yuta to get cooked on the mic yet again. He lets us know that he's not mad that MJF cheap shotted him last week. No. He's pissed because MJF had the audacity to shove down the legend, Tony Schiavone. Yuta goes on to call out MJF, who shows up in a Mets jersey in Philly. I mean, this guy is great. After a rocky start from Yuta on the mic, he ended up pulling it together nicely at the end before running up on MJF, who brought out the ass boys for his protection. They then set up a match for next week on Dynamite between MJF and Wheeler Yuta before MJF walked off, leaving the ass boys to say his catchphrase for him. I'm gonna slap a B- on that. Like, honestly, not your best MJF segment. However, that match next week is going to be a banger. And so is our next match, as you got the AEW World Champion, Jon Moxley, taking on one of the hottest free agents in the game right now, Juice Robinson. And I tell you what, before Mox could even make it down to the ring, Juice jumped him, threw him back into the ring. However, my guy Juice spent a little bit too much time celebrating before climbing in the ring himself, allowing Moxley to get up and lay his ass out, and we're off to the races. This sumbitch was about as physical as Amber Heard on a Tuesday night off. We get back from the commercial break, and Juice just dove off the apron right into a steel chair, which even made MJF cringe as he was on looking up in the skybox. Mox follows that up with a cutter. Juice answers with a powerbomb. He then hits his pull friction, and just as it looked like he got the upset, Mox kicked out at the last second. Mox then hits the regal knee before making Juice tap out. After the match is when business really started to pick up, as Hangman Page came down and got in Moxley's face. And there were no words to be said between these two as Hangman emptied his pockets and these two were ready to just throw down. But right before they could, MJF grabs the mic and lets both of them know that whoever does win their match in 2 weeks on Dynamite is just going to end up losing to him. MJF doesn't notice, however, that a pissed off Wheeler Yuta has snuck up behind him, and by God, he just started laying the smackdown on Max's candy ass. Now, surprisingly, only a little bit of blood out of this Moxley match. I'm going to give it a B+ though. I mean, the fact that we're getting 2 banger matches in the next 2 weeks because of this, I mean, woo. Moving on. Next up, you got Toni Schiavone in the ring, and he brings out the huge returning Saraya. She comes down and lets us know that AEW is her house now. And then production starts telling her that her time is up. Well, she waves them off and then brings out the entire AEW women's division, who was led by the champ Toni Storm. As she was giving these women the attention they also deserve, out comes that Jezebel, Britt Baker, who went as low as to taking a jab at Saraya's infamously injured neck, which is well known for the injuries this went through. I'll be honest though, after a great start to this segment, this went on just a little bit too long, and it got a little bit awkward there at the end. So for that, I'm going to give it a C. However, we go straight from this into the title match between Toni Storm and Serena Deeb. One good thing we got out of all this is that Saraya, thanks for clearing that up, announced that for the first time ever, the AEW Women's title will be on the line in a lumberjack match. You would think that would even the odds with Britt Baker's little crew. However, when Debo distracted the ref, Jamie Hayter made herself known as she dragged Toni Storm out of the ring, which led to a huge ringside brawl between several of the ladies. Just as you thought Debo was getting the upper hand, Storm came back, hit the hip attack, and stormed Debo. That wasn't enough to keep Debo down, but the avalanche power driver was, as Storm covers and got the 1, 2, 3. For that women's title match, I'm going to give it a C+. Now, I am so glad that we're finally giving the AEW women the TV time that they absolutely deserve. And their in-ring work is there. It's par none. But if we're going to move forward with this, a lot of them have to get better on the mic. I'm sorry, but it has to be said. And we have to move on, because next up, you got Ricky Starks. He's taking on Eli Esau. And Mr. Starks is fresh off his huge win over Powerhouse Hobbs. And tonight went something like this for Mr. Starks. Spear, Rochambeau, 1, 2, 3. For this squash match, I'm going to give it a C+. Like, this is exactly what we need to be doing with Ricky Starks moving forward. Give him wins, give him wins, give him a big feud, give him a big win, and let's keep it going like we're going to do tonight. Because that's enough of the talk. It's time for the main event. You got Chris Jericho defending the Ring of Honor title against Bandito. And okay, we have to talk about one thing, and that's that Bandito held Chris Jericho in a vertical suplex for over 60 seconds. Yes, a minute, my guy. He followed that up with the Eddie Guerrero Fog Splash all the way across the ring, but somehow after all that, Jericho kicked out. As Jericho went to get the upper hand, the crowd returned with the "We Want Pizza" chant. Oh, I love pro wrestling. Bandito came back, even hit the crucifix bomb, but once again Jericho kicked out. Jericho then went for the walls of Jericho. Bandito got to the ropes. Jericho then hit a nice suplex off the bottom rope before Bandito stunned the whole building when he hit the moonsault fall away off the top rope. However, it still wasn't enough, so he hit the X-knee followed by the 21X, but I'll be damned if Jericho still didn't kick out. After an eye poke, Jericho applied the Lion Tamer, and Bandito had no choice but to tap out as the Ocho Jericho retains the Ring of Honor Championship. Hate me all you want, but I thought this was great. I'm giving it a B+. And again, like it or not, Chris Jericho holding the Ring of Honor title is what's best for business. He did it with AEW, and that's what he's going to do with that company. I know we didn't want Claudio to lose, but still, when Claudio gets that win over Chris Jericho, when the time comes, it's going to be that much more sweet. So, yeah, that was the main event. So we got all the grades in. Now let's take a look at the report card. After tallying everything up, we came out with a final letter grade of a B-. That's right, at 82%. Hey, man, AEW got some work to do moving forward, but I think they're off to a good start. We're setting up what's about to go down here upcoming, and we all know that MJF is getting the championship. If you don't like it, argue with me in the comments, because I got the time today. Other than that, though, I really do appreciate everybody. I promise I'm not bipolar. I do appreciate everybody that does tune in. Once again, if you haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. If you don't, I'll still rock with you either way. Y'all stay safe out there, and have a nice day.